We'll see on that. Joining us right now to discuss more about the Supreme Court's decisions last week is Newsmax Chief Washington Correspondent John Gizzi. John, great to have you with us again.
Great to be back.
Well, I'd like to point everybody to John's great column up on Newsmax.com right now. You, of course, writing about the GOP's response to the Supreme Court ruling last week. Quote, in contrast to the responses to the Supreme Court's ruling on Thursday favoring Obamacare, reaction among Senate Republicans to Friday's high court ruling in favor of same-sex marriage is not as solid. We're going to talk about this a little bit more here, but let's talk about this movement we're seeing from some of the more conservative candidates, John, to talk about protecting religious liberty. Is that the antidote the GOP needs now to talk about this SCOTUS ruling and really rally a lot of the base?
Well, I'd certainly think it would resonate with a lot of the people who will play roles in selecting the next Republican nominee. Party activists, people who participate in primaries and caucuses. And certainly, while the public's mood may have changed on same-sex marriage, and certainly the Supreme Court has made it easier for candidates not to take a stand, there still is a significant group that believes marriage is between a man and a woman. And obviously, candidates such as Governor Walker of Wisconsin are appealing to this group, calling for a constitutional amendment to say just what that is. It will be important in the nomination fight. How important it is in the long run really depends.
Yeah, that is the key question, because it does appear, though, some might be saying, well, this happened, now let's just kind of move on.
Well, certainly they are saying that. But again, when you talk about settled law, whether it's same-sex marriage or Obamacare, then you have to ask, what will the party and the candidates address in terms of issues, and how do they answer that when they're asked at, say, a meeting in Manchester, New Hampshire, or Dubuque, Iowa, about issues like this? Certainly candidates are going to face voters and activists who come to meetings wanting to know just about the issues the court ruled on last week.
All right, well, let's also talk about the news that Ohio Governor John Kasich could be jumping into the race very soon here. July 21st is the expected date here. What does this tell us about the fact that Jeb Bush does not have the so-called establishment wing of the Republican Party backing him 100% yet? Because Kasich would still kind of be a competitor for Jeb in this crowd, would he not?
Well, I'm not sure about that. Remember one thing about John Kasich, and this is from a not-so-young reporter who's covered him since he first came to Congress in 1982. He will always surprise people. He accepted joining the Medicaid exchange in Ohio over the objection of his own Republican-controlled state legislature. He has emphasized issues such as mental health. He has said that if the Supreme Court ruled in favor of same-sex marriage, he would support it and enforce the law because it would overturn the initiative that was passed in the Buckeye State saying just the opposite, that marriage is between a man and a woman in '04. So while he comes from Ohio, while he's been in politics more than 3 decades, John Kasich certainly doesn't sit at the table of the establishment.
Okay, well, fair enough, but he does have a resume on paper that it looks very daunting to challenge. A lot of experience in Congress, the governor of a swing state here, and as you mentioned, he has that crossover appeal. Certainly someone that the rest of the crowd could be concerned about, right?
Certainly he will be important. When he was asked during a recent press luncheon in Washington hosted by the Christian Science Monitor how he differed from other Midwestern governors who would run for president, say Scott Walker of Wisconsin, he said without hesitation, I can carry Ohio. My colleague Jolie Friedman and I spent a lot of time with him at the Faith and Freedom Conference, and he emphasized foreign policy.
And he's an exciting guy to listen to when he's up there talking, John. He's an exciting guy to listen to and can really captivate a crowd. So we'll see where Kasich goes and look forward to that announcement on July 21st. John Gizzi is going to stick around with us. We've got much more coming up here on Newsmax Now. We're going to continue to take a look at the GOP response to the Supreme Court decision on same-sex marriage. Stick around.